Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10, a short version podcast talking all things Pittsburgh sports. We are here today with a whole lot to discuss, a lot of Steelers topics as Mike Tomlin talked yesterday. The Pirates, we addressed this with Noah Hiles and Andrew Destin. Made a couple changes so far. I had a column this morning on those topics. I want to discuss a little bit there. I was out at Penguins last night. The Red Wings 2, the Penguins 1, but still some interesting takeaways. Before we get into all of that, though, I want to remind you that we are brought to you by Edgar Snyder and Associates. If you're injured in an accident, you're probably wondering, what's next? For over 40 years, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped injury victims answer that question. Whether it's gathering evidence, collecting medical records, or dealing with the insurance companies, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped over 75,000 people, handle what's next. Call 1-800-4EDGAR or visit edgarsnyder.com for a free consultation. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. So the number one topic today for me, Steelers. We could go Davante Adams. We could go Justin Fields. Going to discuss a little bit about Davante Adams, but I actually want to start with Justin Fields because of something that Mike Tomlin said yesterday. It struck me. There is potential for that, but we're not there as we stand here today, was the quote. The context surrounding the quote was Justin Fields taking over the job permanently. The news, because Russell Wilson's getting closer. He's expected to take part in team drills this week. A pocket, if you will, a live pocket, if you will, I think is how Mike Tomlin put it, since aggravating his calf injury a month ago. Well, I'm sorry, I'm sticking with Justin Fields. And I think this is the most important start Justin Fields has had to date. If Russell Wilson is back challenging for the starting job, he's starting to have to fend off a push, Fields. I don't think that, I wouldn't want to go away from Fields at this point. I like what he's done. I think I think guys like playing around him. I like the running component that he adds. I've seen a lot with his arm. I'm not ready to abandon that. But the Steelers, it hasn't really been a huge kept secret, would like to play Russell Wilson. Again, it seems, I'm reading tea leaves there. I'm not reporting things. It's just a feel that, you don't bring in Russell Wilson to use him as a backup. So what do? If they're 4-1 and Justin Fields plays really well against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night, I don't know how you take him out. And I think that's Mike Tomlin's acknowledgement of that, again, there is potential for that. Fields taking the starting job, keeping it, but we're not there as we stand here today. Well, if we're talking on Monday after a fantastic performance from Justin Fields, do we stand there then? Very possibly. I think so. So important start for Fields. Really liked, I went over this on Monday's podcast, but really like what he did against the Colts, rallying. It was not the greatest start. He made some mistakes. Sure, they all did. They lost the game. But I like the way he handled himself. I like the way he brought them back, really despite much of a running game. Was obviously a factor in the running game. And I want to see that continue. Some more news from Tomlin before we get into Davante Adams and wide receiver talk. Going to be another one that's tough with injuries. That's been a difficult thing for the Steelers. Alex Highsmith out with a groin. Jalen Warren, a knee. Cordarrelle Patterson, ankle. They're both questionable at the start of the week. Some good news. Isaac Seumalo seemingly will be back from his pectoral injury. And boy, the offensive line needs it, right? Losing James Daniels for the season. I liked what Mason McCormick did. I want to see more, and I think we will see more. Not sure whether they're going to rotate him and Spencer Anderson at guard opposite Seumalo. But some interesting stuff there, and it's really been tough for the offensive line to get going, to get some continuity. Maybe that happens this week, but really curious to see how they handle those injuries up front. All right, wide receiver stuff. What are we talking about here? Are we talking about another receiver? Are we talking about Brandon Ayuk 2.0? Boy, it sure sounds like it. Talks out of Vegas. Seems like Davante Adams is going to be available. The only thing that concerns me there is the cap hit. And it's sort of like Ayuk. I thought it's a lot of money for a wide receiver, and I still think it's a lot of money for a wide receiver. It seems very much impractical this season for the Steelers to be able to fit Davante Adams under their cap. Now, if we look at this objectively, do we say they need a Davante Adams? Do they need a better wide receiver than they've had? Absolutely. That's an easy question to answer. But I don't know if Davante Adams is the guy. How do you fit that money? That's the question I'm asking. Not about the talent, not about the production, not about will he fit, not about will he help. Of course he will. How do you fit the salary? It's 20 plus off the top of my head. 22 and change goes up to 26, somewhere in that range. They've got 10.6 in space right now. I know you can move some things around, but can you move some things around and double your amount of salary cap space? No, I think we're on the right track, though. That's what I like to see. And this is something I've talked about this on this podcast before. I think the Steelers are giving us kernels of how they feel about their team. You don't ride the Brandon Ayuk situation out, first off, without thinking that you have a glaring need at wide receiver. But you don't check on DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton. Those are two guys that, they've expressed interest in. I know you express interest in a lot of things, not naive to that. Other lists recently have them linked to DeAndre Hopkins from the Titans, Christian Kirk from the Jaguars. Though those are not reported based on what the Steelers are doing, but they make sense. They make sense because the Steelers undoubtedly need wide receiver help. Wrote this a couple days ago. Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller, Calvin Austin III. 20 targets, 14 catches, 192 yards, and 95 of them came from one guy in one game, Austin. It's not enough. And as we get down the stretch, they're going to blanket George Pickens. They're going to take George Pickens out of a game. If you're an opposing defensive coordinator, wouldn't you do the same thing? I would. And right now I look at the Steelers and they have enough to get 9-8. They have enough to get to 10-7. Sure. No questions there. The defense is going to put them in position. Again, I've liked what Justin Fields has done. I think when push comes to shove, they're going to be able to run the football better than they did against Indianapolis. But did they have enough to become elite? Did they have enough to truly compete with the Ravens, the Bills, the Chiefs? Not without a better number 2 wide receiver, in my opinion. And that's a way you can do this. A trade. I mean, Davante Adams would be like a Christmas present showing up here. It's fantastic. But I don't think they have enough around him. All right, I want to get into a little Penguins and Pirates talk on the other side, but first going to take a short break with a message from the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Embrace the laid-back charm of island life while sinking your toes in the sand and discovering real, authentic Florida in the Bradenton area. Unspoiled beauty and pristine beaches, a vibrant waterfront downtown energized by local arts and culture, fresh Floridian cuisine with a flourish of rich history, and friendly locals ready to welcome you to this preserved paradise on Florida's Gulf Coast. Plan your visit today at BradentonGulfIslands.com.
Welcome back to First 10. I'm your host, Jason Mackey. We're here mid-morning every day, about 10 minutes, talking all things Pittsburgh sports. All right, so the Penguins made some changes. No, they didn't make any changes. The Pirates made some changes. Andy Haynes out, Justin Message out. I was joined by Andrew Destin and Noah Hiles the night that that story broke to talk a little bit about that. Wrote a column today talking on maybe taking a next step with this stuff and looking at, not being surprised necessarily they made these changes. They needed to. Pirates scored 27 fewer runs. Team OPS went from 707 to 672. Had to change the offense. Bullpen ERA 27th at 4.49. However, we're kidding ourselves a couple things here. I mean, if you think the bullpen coach has a lot to do with the performance of pitchers, I mean, come on. Now, that position can be a position of strength. Andrew Destin has an excellent piece out right now looking at some candidates, some people that might add something to the Pirates coaching staff. And that's great. And that's how you should look at it. I don't think it was all Justin Message's fault, which is the fifth bullet in there that I did kind of 5 takeaways from where we're at now. And that this can't be it. You can't possibly think that you've addressed the problem if you're the Pirates. I understand doing those. Those are easy ones. You knew that was going to have to change. Fine. I like both of those guys, but this is professional sports. People lose their jobs, and it's obvious. You also need to think about getting through to younger players. This was a topic with Andrew and Noah. Jack Sawinski, Henry Davis, haven't seen the best out of them. Whomever they bring in has to be able to relate to young guys, and those are going to be 2 players very high on the assignment list. The biggest takeaway I have, though, is this player-centric culture they talk about, and it was not exhibited in what the Pirates did hitting-wise. They went to an approach-based system. You know this. Everybody has to see a lot of pitches, work deep in counts. That's not best for everybody. I want whoever comes in here to actually do that. Player-centric, meaning doing what's best for the individual player. If a guy's aggressive, especially with, fastballs early in the count, let him swing at him. Don't make him take pitches that are his strength because that's your team-wide philosophy. That doesn't make sense. All right, so check that out. I can't get too far into that. Want to touch on a little bit of Penguin stuff. Getting worried about Erik Karlsson. Am I the only one? He's been out with an injury day to day. He did skate on Tuesday, his first time in a week, but is he going to be ready for opening day? It's 8 days away. It's 8 days away. They need Erik Karlsson to be a much better version of himself. If for nothing else, then if you look at salary cap reasons, and they're paying him a lot of money. I don't necessarily agree with him quarterbacking the top power play. I would almost rather see that go to Chris Letang at this point. Karlsson's strengths are more 5-on-5, but you need him in your lineup. You need him to create 5-on-5. You need him to be worth his salary. Understand the injury, certainly, but this is not something that I expected. I think other people expected when we started camp, when he was listed as day-to-day. Need him to come along. My biggest takeaway from last night, Matt Venzel wrote about this, Harrison Brunick. Very good. Very good. Very noticeable. Played 18-plus minutes, game-high 9 shots, a hit. An intriguing defenseman. Took him in the second round this year, 44th overall. Played for the Kamloops Blazers of the Western Hockey League last year, 10 goals, 21 points in 49 games. Looks like he fits. I don't think he's going to make the team. They're probably going to send him back to junior. But a very good performance from him. It's, prospects, right? You need prospects coming up through the system. This is going to be something that sustains the Penguins' run. Obviously, I'm getting a little bit big picture, probably a little bit too early, but just was very impressed with Harry. They call him. That's what Mike Sullivan called him last night, but that certainly looked like he belonged. All right, we'll get into some more Penguin stuff tomorrow, I believe. See what else happens Pirates-wise, if anything. Thank you for watching. As always, make sure you like and subscribe. You can get all of these videos and much, much more from our Post-Gazette YouTube and podcast network. Thanks for watching First 10, everybody.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.